Feng Shui was originally developed in China as a way for people to determine what was the most advantageous way to orient or build their homes. All cultures have some sort of Feng Shui or geomancy where they look at what is the best way we can connect with our environment.
You're listening to the Feed Your Wild podcast, a conscious lifestyle show about all things nourishing for your body, mind, and soul. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez, and join me for candid conversations with changemakers, exploring health and wellness, food as medicine, intuition and spirituality, and nature-based practices that will transform your health and feed all parts of your wild self. Hey there, welcome back everybody to Feed Your Wild. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to take a quickie moment to talk about a free program I'm putting together. It's called Wildly Unstuck. And we're going to get into the top 5 things that are sabotaging your health goals and what to do about them. This is probably the biggest thing that I get told by people in terms of what their biggest challenges are and what they struggle with. And so if you are ready to get unstuck in your health and out of your own way, and you want to know what might actually be in your way, what to do about it, then this is for you. I'm creating it right now. It's going to be totally free. And if you are interested in signing up for it and gaining access, I have a link that is going to be in the show notes, as well as through my Instagram profile. The link is bit.ly/wildly unstuck. So go there if you want to sign up and join the waitlist to get access to this totally free audio program when it's done. And it's in the works, but if you have specific questions, challenges, blocks, anything that you want some insight on or some support around, please let me know. You can email me at hello@wildlyrooted.com, or you can reach out to me on Instagram with a direct message, and of course through my website, wildlyrooted.com. So any one of those ways, let me know what you're struggling with, what you want to know, what would be most helpful for you. I promise I will include it in the program, and if you're signed up for the email list, then you'll get notification as soon as it's done and ready, and you'll gain access to that. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. All right, let's get into this week's episode. Consider for a moment that everything in your environment, what I like to call your sacred ecology, plays a role in creating the conditions for growing the you that stands as yourself today and the future, whether we like it or not. While it may not feel like it initially, this is a highly empowering thing to grasp. Why? Because now you get to check and cultivate an ecology that you desire so you can thrive today and tomorrow. It's never too late to change our story. And that's why creating holistic spaces is critical when it comes to our well-being. Our guest today, Anjie Cho, green architect, Feng Shui expert, and author of Holistic Spaces, says that through observing and shifting the built environment, Feng Shui, which is an ancient Asian art of placement, teaches us how to live in harmony with nature. Feng Shui adjustments can bring balance to your home, health, and life because the principles are founded upon cycles and patterns of nature and ancient knowledge. This is all about getting wildly rooted and feeding your wild space. So today in our conversation with Anjie, we cover what Feng Shui actually means and its importance related to creating a holistic home. Anjie shares about her journey from exhaustion, starting her own business, and the big leaps she committed to making that led her to greater ease and success in her career and life. She breaks down the foundational principles of Feng Shui, including the Bagua map, and gives us tips on how to boost the area of nourishment, wealth, and prosperity with small tweaks in your home space. This was such a fun and illuminating interview with lots of easy and practical tips. You'll get some insights into my own living space. Plus, we are having a super fun Feed Your Wild and Holistic Spaces giveaway. So make sure you stay tuned to the end for details on that. All right, let's dive into today's episode with Anjie Cho. Welcome back, everybody, to Feed Your Wild. Today, I'm really excited to have Anjie Cho on. Anjie Cho is an architect, Feng Shui educator, and author of Holistic Spaces, 108 Ways to Create a Mindful and Peaceful Home. Since 1999, she's been designing beautiful and nourishing spaces, inner and outer, with balance and harmony, informed by the ancient practice of Feng Shui. Her focus is to create nurturing and supportive environments, tailoring her practice to each individual's specific needs. Anjie, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Vanessa. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. So I know that I mentioned this to you in my invitation to you, but for listeners, I never win giveaways, like ever. I was on Instagram and I love Lotus Way and Katie Hess, who, by the way, I'm going to have her on the podcast too. So I'm really excited about that. But I follow Lotus Way on Instagram, and I saw they were having a giveaway with this woman, Anjie Cho, who wrote this incredible book about Feng Shui. And I swear I had been really thinking about this for the past month and just doing like really basic research on Feng Shui and trying to create a nurturing space that's going to help me and in like my vision and what I want in my life, because I was really feeling that the energy of the home, like there were blocks happening. And then I won this giveaway and I received your book and some lovely flower essence aura sprays from Lotus Way. So I devoured your book. It was really helpful because it's so practical and pragmatic. So thank you for offering that.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I'm really glad to hear that it was easy to digest, because that was really one of my goals with the book, was that there's so many Feng Shui books that are great for practitioners and consultants, but they're not as easy for the average person to work with. And then you pick it up and then you don't pick it up again and you don't do anything because it's very confusing or it's overwhelming. And my approach to everything is I take a more practical approach to most things. So I'm really glad to hear that it was easy to incorporate some of the things.
Yeah, totally. And I hear you, because in my research, I was finding a lot of different stuff, but it wasn't presented in a way that was, like just practical and pragmatic. Like you can implement just one thing, just try this one thing, and having a framework for understanding. And so I want to get into some of those principles. But first, I kind of wanted to give the audience a chance to learn what Feng Shui actually means, because I think that it's, it could be kind of common and used flippantly in the current vernacular, in like the holistic health space, like, oh, that's so not Feng Shui, but people don't really know what it means, and it's a bit enigmatic. So I'd love to hear from you, what is Feng Shui and why is it important when we're talking about holistic homes?
Sure, of course. I'd love to tell you. So Feng Shui, like with most disciplines, until you dive in a bit deep, there's a superficial knowledge about it, and that's totally fine. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I don't know that much, and I have my own layman's definition of. But so Feng Shui actually translates to the words wind and water. And I think this is a really great description because what are we made out of? As humans, we're wind, we're breath, and we're water. We're, I think, 70 to 80% water. And these are also elements in nature. So Feng Shui is a way to look at how you are connected to nature and how you are not separate from nature. And in addition, I know mindfulness is a huge buzzword now, but I think that a great way to describe Feng Shui is it's a way to have mindfulness in respect to your surroundings and noticing all the details of your life, including what you feel or what you experience, like the first moment you open your eyes when you're in bed, or the first thing you see when you get home. And all of these little details impact your well-being, your stress levels, and how you show up in the world.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting, the parallels with health too. I mean, I think that it's all connected, right? It's all integrated, and it's all about energy, really. And so, in your book, you write that Feng Shui is the original green design, and you mentioned some really the roots in nature. So why is Feng Shui sort of that original green design? What do you mean by that?
So Feng Shui was originally developed in China as a way for people to determine what was the most advantageous way to orient or build their homes, or lay their land, or to orient their farmland, for instance. And all cultures have some sort of Feng Shui or geomancy where they look at what is the best way we can connect with our environment and how can we use this to our advantage. So a really obvious thing I like to tell my students is, if you could close your eyes right now, and so you can zoom where I am right now. I am in the middle of a nor'easter, but it's not raining right now. But I'm in New York City in an apartment near the river. And, the bustle of New York City, there might be a siren that goes by. There's like buses making noise. There's people, there's just a lot of people. So that's one kind of feeling. And then we can zoom over to, like my business partner for my Feng Shui school. And she lives near Toronto in the country, in a big house with lots of windows and surrounded by green. So there's different ways that your environment affects you. So originally, when you wanted to set up your home, it would be most advantageous to have it set up such that like you were protected from the back, that invaders couldn't come from behind you, and you would be able to see what's coming towards you, that you had access to water, that you had access to sunlight, and even you can even see it in a tree, for instance. In our climate, in our area, like in the Northeast or like in the U.S., the south-facing side of a tree has the most supple and the most lush and the biggest leaves, right? Because it's the orientation and it's the way that the tree was placed. But if you place a tree where it's not going to get any sunlight or water, then it's not going to thrive.
Mm-hmm. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking there's a term that I use, sacred ecology, and looking at each individual's ecology inside and outside, and that includes energetically, what's going on in their orientation and how that impacts their health. I think it's really incredible, but also kind of sad how we've lost that connection to nature, because the feeling that I got reading your book was like, man, so much of this felt intuitive, but it took me kind of getting outside of my I moved from Chicago and in a very small space and very cluttered and lots of energies around me. And I now live in the countryside in Southern Oregon in the woods. And by coming here, I feel like I was able to intuitively feel and sense a lot of the things that you had mentioned that are kind of part of this, it's known for thousands of years by observing nature and patterns. So I'm curious, like, what do you think about the loss of that? Like, how did that really happen with regards to our space? It's kind of a big question.
Well, it's like you said, that like Feng Shui, or the ideas of our spaces, our internal and our external spaces, as well as like looking at health or other wellness disciplines. We have really lost touch with this because I think especially maybe through the industrial age, and as we've moved through, like we have this living in this patriarchal society, we've really kind of devalued feminine energy and how to slow down and be spacious and accept things and connect with nature. So we have really lost touch with that. And even like the Industrial Revolution, where we were no longer depending on the nature to provide us food, but we were forcing nature to provide us food in the way that we wanted it. So I think I used to think it was really sad, and I think that's now I'm kind of turning a corner where I see that this was what was meant to happen, and it happened. And what we can do now is really reconnect, because I think there's a huge movement towards that with everything that's going on in our society now, as we really have to start to shift our view, and all of us are yearning to reconnect with nature.
Totally. I'm really feeling that too. I mean, that was the impetus of starting this podcast, and to talk to people like you. I'm curious, what first pulled your curiosity toward Feng Shui? How'd you get into it? And you're an architect and designer. So how did that all start out for you?
So I think I always kind of wanted to be an artist a little bit when I was young. But I have Asian parents, and so they said, "Oh, well, that means that you'll be an architect." But I'm also going to own it, because I made the decision, and I'm really happy that I made that decision. But I've been able to morph in my career into something much more unique than that. But however, so I studied architecture, and I really I was really having a hard time, especially I moved to New York in my late 20s, and it was so fast paced, and I came from California. So I was really having a hard time, and I was really that type of person that would work to live instead of live to work. And I was really like miserable. And I actually went to Thailand during my Saturn return. And I didn't realize I was in my Saturn return or anything like this until I came back. But I had an epiphany. I had like this Reiki session. I didn't even know what Reiki was. Mm-hmm. And we just ran into this Reiki master. And anyway, so I had a huge epiphany that when I came back to New York, I really wanted to change my life, and I wanted to become more spiritual and look into that. And so I started meditating and going to yoga. And then I really wanted to connect that to my career. So I eventually started studying Feng Shui, and I was really pleasantly surprised how much deeper it goes than what the initial thoughts are. And it's not just about moving furniture around, but it's really a very deep philosophy that goes beyond what you see, but it encompasses the invisible and also lots of philosophy. So I was really, really fortunate to also take a program with these wonderful mentors that were like for the first time I had mentors in my life. Mm-hmm. And everything just kind of fell into place. And I like to say, like, the universe just left me all these breadcrumbs in front of me, and I just had to follow them. And so everything just opened up for me after I started studying Feng Shui.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like so many folks, they're at that precipice in their life where they feel like something's got to change, or, you know, they feel a pull toward deeper alignment, but they don't know what that is or what that looks like. And so it's almost like you taking care of yourself, you know, and just kind of following that first pull, and then things were laid out in front of you. It's just like such a more, not easy, but there's more flow to living in that way.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's a lot of fear. I like to tell the story about when I first started my business. I still had some part-time work where I was supporting a designer, and I was working a lot on my business and her business, and I was so exhausted and so tired, but I was worried that if I quit, I didn't know what would happen. And I didn't want to let her down. And there was all this guilt, and I was exhausted. So I was doing everyone a disservice, my business and her business. So I finally, someone pointed out to me, she said, well, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen if you quit this job? So I thought about it, and I realized in my entire life, I've had the good fortune of never, if I wanted a job or work, I always had it. If I needed anything, I always received it. And I had no reason to be scared or to have fear. And then I realized, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I can quit this freelance job and I can go into my business 100%. And if I don't get enough clients and I don't get enough work, then I have to get a freelance job. So I was already living my worst case scenario out of fear. So like the next day I quit.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's amazing how much we do out of fear, and we live out our worst case.
Totally. And I hear you, and like everybody listening, because I know there's a lot of folks who are wanting to start their own business, even listening to this or thinking about, you know, like just playing around with that idea and how scary that can be. But I love this trajectory and the work that you're putting out into the world now. So I'd love to get into some of the foundations of Feng Shui, because I found it so helpful to be introduced to the map. Is it called the Bagua map? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, you got it right. The Bagua map.
The Bagua map. So I'd love for you to introduce the Bagua map and its significance in Feng Shui and holistic spaces.
Sure. So the Bagua map it's a map that we use in Feng Shui, and it's overlaid on top of your home or your room, and I'll get more into that later. But it's basically a 3x3 grid, so like a tic-tac-toe, and it has 8 areas around a center. So there's 9 areas total. However, Bagua means 8 areas, so it's 8 areas around a center, and they all represent different aspects of your life. And it's actually a really thorough way to look at everything. When I do a Feng Shui consultation, I actually go through, if my client doesn't really give me that much information to go with, because some people are shy or a little closed off, then I'll start going through all the Bagua areas in a specific sequence, which in fact, like walking through the questions in that sequence is a blessing in itself. But there's 9 areas that cover a lot of, like, all the aspects of your life, which include family and new beginnings. And then there's everyone's favorite, the wealth abundance area. Mm-hmm. There's the health area. There's the helpful people, benefactors, travel, completion and joy. There's knowledge and self-cultivation. There's recognition, fame, and passion. Another area is your path in life, like your career. And then the last area, which is the second, is also a favorite, is relationships and love and partnerships. So this area, so the Bagua is this 3x3 grid. That's a conceptual map. So a lot of people get confused, but it can be applied on your entire home, or it could be stretched to fit your bedroom. So a lot of times when someone's doing this on their own, they don't have someone laying the Bagua for them on their floor plan, I recommend, why don't you just start with your bedroom, because your bedroom represents you and it's closest to you. So if you make some adjustments in your bedroom, that'll be the most powerful. And generally bedrooms are more rectangular, so it's easier to work with. But if you can also apply it to your desk in terms of your career, or you can apply it as small as to your hand or to your face or to your body. But we can go big, like it could be applied to your property, your city, the country, the world, so it expands and contracts.
When I was looking at the Bagua map immediately, so just to give context to you and listeners, we moved into a space that's pretty small. It's like a studio cabin, essentially. So it's all one room. And then there's the bathroom portion of it. And so I was thinking about that with the Bagua and how I don't really have other rooms per se, and what this maps out like. And I was like, oh no, I'm screwed.
Where's your bathroom?
Oh my gosh. So wait, I have the map right here. Actually, I'm gonna map it out.
Well, it's okay that you have it's okay that it's one room. It actually makes your life easier because you could just lay it on the room, and maybe it's like a rectangular cabin, right?
Yeah. The bathroom is in the back area where recognition and relationships are. And although it's interesting, and I want to kind of get into the elements and how to use the map and some of the principles. For example, you talk about the commanding position, and I think you mentioned that just briefly, and the power of intention. And I'd love for you to kind of go into those two. But with the commanding position, I was finding that I was already putting things in place with that sort of just knowing or understanding. I think it's probably very natural, like it's almost an animalistic thing to do, it feels like, for protection, because I noticed that dogs do this a lot where they position themselves. Could you explain to listeners what the commanding position is?
Sure. The commanding position is a principle that is very basic in Feng Shui that governs how you would locate yourself in relationship in a space. So like if we use the bedroom scenario, that's pretty easy. It's the location of your bed. So you would want to locate your bed such that when you're lying in bed that you can see the door without having to turn your head and without being right in line with the door. So Vanessa, since you said you live in a cabin in the woods, it makes perfect sense that you would intuitively set up your home with the commanding position, because maybe you're there alone sometimes and you want to make sure you have your eye on the door, but you don't want to be in line with the door, because the idea is that if you're in this position, like you're in bed and you're asleep. So you're in this passive state and somebody comes in the door, which is one way that someone could enter or intrude in a space. Or so you want to be able to see that person coming in. However, you wouldn't want to be in line with them, because then they would have the advantage of attacking you. Mm-hmm. So it puts you in a safe position. So how this affects you when you're in bed, for instance, is that when you sleep, you can sleep with more ease and you can sleep with less stress. And the idea is that when you are not in the commanding position, that means that your back is facing the door and you, like the back of your neck, and your body is not protected. You don't know what's coming towards you. You can be attacked and you can be surprised. So energetically, you can also be surprised. Someone, like if you're in an office and you're not in the commanding position, like you're in a cubicle, you have people walking by, creeping up on you, looking at your computer. Like how are you going to be able to do really good, effective, focused work when you have people walking behind you, all this energy moving behind you, and you don't know what's coming up towards you. And alternatively, like say if your stove is not in commanding position, it means that you're putting that subtle level of stress that you can't see the door and that you're not protected, and you're putting that subtle level of stress and fear into the food while you're into your food while you're cooking it. So it's really important to try to correct yourself and be in the commanding position. So metaphorically, you can see what's coming towards you. You can have your eyes open and be aware and be awake and be able to see all the beautiful opportunities and any kind of danger as well, that you're in control or command of the situation.
Yes. And I noticed that I put our bed in the commanding position as it relates to, we have our front door, but along that same wall, we also have some window door, like doors they're just windows, floor to ceiling. And then I also put my work desk in the commanding position as well.
That's great.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's so fascinating that I did that, and it totally makes sense. I'm like this scared animal in the woods in her cave,
And this is how it dovetails back into what we were talking about earlier, like how we had this connection to nature, but like say I'm in an apartment with a security guard and there's many like doors for an intruder to come into. So I'm pretty safe, but our old minds don't know that. Mm-hmm. Our reptilian mind doesn't know that and still is under stress, and it elevates our adrenal levels and affects us. It's like, that drop of water on a stone. Over time, a little drop of water can create a big dent. So over time, even though you know consciously, I know consciously I'm safe. You may not know that you're safe because you're in the woods, but it affects you, and it affects your stress levels and how you sleep and how you show up in the world and how well you can work in the world.
Yeah. And I think that it's so fascinating how making these little shifts can just alter your nervous system, so that then you can actually heal better, and you can concentrate better, and all these shifts that we don't even realize can happen. You had mentioned the burners, and I love how you speak to the kitchen and the burner as sort of like the hearth of the home. And this was another area where I was like, oh, here we go again. I'm screwed again with the burners, because this space actually didn't have a stove. So we had to get some electric burners, and they're directly in eye line when you walk in the door. And it seemed like that was a little bit of a feng shui no-no. Could you talk about just the kitchen area, for nourishment, and the hearth of the home, and why that is important not to have sort of in the eye line of the entryway?
Okay. So, it's not great to have your stove in view of the door, but you actually, you said you brought in the burners, so you can move them, right?
Yes, we can move them.
Okay. So I would move them, or you could place something like a partition to block your view so you don't see the stove when you first walk in the door. Because I'm going to just go back to commanding position really quick, because I don't want people to be worried. So if your stove is not in the commanding position, or your desk, the most important areas are desk, stove, and bed. You can also correct it with a mirror, so that when you're you're standing at your stove, or you're sitting at your desk, or you're laying in bed, this mirror is positioned so that you can see the door. And with your stove situation, I would just move your burners. But in Feng Shui, the kitchen represents where you nourish yourself, and the stove represents your wealth and how you nourish yourself. Because the better that you can take care of yourself and nourish your body, the better you can do in the world and create more prosperity for yourself. So it's really important to pay attention to those things and if you can, be in command at your stove. Because again, you don't want, you want to put positive energy into your food. Like you can chant mantra into your food, or you can use Reiki on your food. You could just love your food there and cook it with love. But even the position of where you're standing in relationship to your door can affect the quality of what you put into your body, even if you're not cooking at the stove. So some of the important things with the stove, one is that you use it on a daily basis, and it can even just be to boil water, but that's activating the fire energy again to help you with your prosperity. And one thing I like to say about the burners is, well, I'll ask you, I don't know, I think I have it in the book. I can't remember, but I always ask people like if they have a favorite burner. Do you have a favorite burner, Vanessa?
Well, we've been having a saga with our burner. Like the first set of, it's just 2 burners, and the first one burnt out literally. And yeah, I know. I was like, oh shit, this is not good. And then we had to get another one, and I do have a favorite. It's the left side burner.
Well, so you fixed the broken one, or you replaced the broken one, right?
We replaced it. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's important too, to promptly repair things that need fixing. Because if you had this burner in disrepair for a long periods of time, it can affect your nourishment as well as your wealth. So you have your favorite burner, and I have my favorite burner too. It's the one right now. It's the one on the closest to me on the left. And so the thing that we do usually is we just wake up every morning. Maybe we boil coffee or tea. We boil some water, and we just go straight beeline to our favorite burner. And we just use that one all the time. So one thing that you could do with respect to Feng Shui is actually change up which burner you use. Instead of just going to the same one every time mindlessly, we can show up in front of our stove in the morning or whatever during the day and make a conscious decision. Just pause, have a little gap. It could be like fractions of a second to make a conscious decision to pick a different burner. It can be your favorite burner, but maybe it's a different burner, or maybe you just pick your favorite burner every time. But it's about having a daily reminder to open up your opportunities, to not just beeline towards the most convenient pattern or to fall into our patterns, but to take even a second to think, how do I feel? Which burner do I feel like using today? And just checking in with yourself. And I think that's a beautiful little ritual to do every day. And by going every day to your stove, you can activate your wealth energy and nourish yourself better. But it also helps you to open up your opportunities.
I love that. And I think it also inspires people to maybe even cook more at home,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It is interesting how, because of the situation, we were used to a bigger stove and lots of cooking all the time. And then we came here, and it's been a really difficult transition. But yeah, I love just these little things that we can do. The other aspect of it that related to the kitchen area, but this seems to be sort of a through line throughout the space in Feng Shui, is blocked or stagnant energy. I think about that when I'm looking in my kitchen right now, just above the cabinets, how there's space there. And in your book, you mentioned that there are areas in the home that can collect stagnant energy. Can you speak to why it's important to do clearance?
Sure. So the example that you offered, having the open space above the cabinet. So if your kitchen cabinets don't go all the way to the ceiling, or if there's a gap there, that's a place where stagnant energy can collect, because there's not a lot of movement. There's no life around there. There's no energy moving around. And literally, like, it's a dust collector. Mm-hmm. So in Feng Shui, a way to adjust that would be to add some life energy there, which would mean you could put plants there or lights. And you don't even have to turn on the lights, but just having some kind of energy over there can help to move the qi. And this also happens in rooms that are not used, in dark corners, in storage spaces. So more yin areas, like more passive areas where not a lot of activity is happening. So it's really helpful once a year or twice a year, maybe during the equinox or the solstice or during Chinese New Year or even on your birthday, although you probably don't want to clean on your birthday. But to do a literal clearing, like taking a broom or a vacuum and kind of moving the dust or getting rid of the dust and cleaning up the dust. And then you can also use space clearing techniques like ringing a chime, that the vibrations of a bell or chimes can break up the stuck energy. I've really been into doing that lately, but also you could smudge or even just like sing or dance in the space. That livens things up too.
Oh, I love that. It's like you don't even have to really bring something in. You can just use your own energy to clear it.
Yeah, you don't have to buy anything. So, that's actually I remember you asked about misconceptions, and someone had posted this on one of my Facebook groups that she said she didn't have the luxury to hire a Feng Shui person or have the luxury to do Feng Shui or something. And it was like, that's such I guess that's a misconception that you may think that you need to purchase a lot of expensive things or expensive people to change your energy. But that's what I talk about in the book. Like just one thing at a time can really shift things. And it's really like rethinking how we do things, where we're just so, everyone is overwhelmed. I decided like yesterday, I'm no longer going to say I'm busy because it's kind of condescending because everyone's busy.
Yeah.
I'm not maybe I truly think I'm busier, but that's okay. It's very condescending to tell people you're busy. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and everyone's busy. That's just our life now. So I'm not going to say it anymore because I've chosen to have a certain level of activity in my life and I can choose to change it. But in any case, we really want to start to look at things one thing at a time. So yeah, you don't need to buy anything. You can sing and dance and you can make your own Feng Shui cures or whatever, or you can clean up a space, or you can shine a flashlight. There's lots of Feng Shui things that you could do that you don't have to have money for.
Yeah. And I appreciate the tips that you include in the book. So one of them, for example, I realize, and I kind of knew this in my heart in general, but I'm really missing water. I love living here. I'm surrounded by lots of wood energy, and yet I'm a Cancer. I'm water sign. I love the ocean, and we don't have a lot of watery things here. So you mentioned just a couple, but I'd love for you to speak to the elements and, for example, to boost water, like what are some things to bring in?
Well, I think I'm going to give you a non-Feng Shui answer, but it is Feng Shui because Feng Shui includes everything. Like there's Feng Shui of your body. And because recently I went to a yoga class, a Kundalini yoga class, and the Kriya is like the worst Kriya for me, which is just dancing for 7 minutes or moving your body for 7 minutes. But which I was like, oh no. But the teacher really brought up an interesting connection to the elements, which I didn't really think about because I'm not a very body-focused person or dance-focused person. So she was saying, if you feel like you need more water right now, you can move your body like water, like do flowy movements, and that gives you the water. Or if you need to be grounded, you can sit on the ground and roll on the ground and connect to the ground. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I look at it spatially and visually, but just talking about how you can use your body to connect to the elements. So I love that.
I love that too. And I feel like you're calling me out because I was a dancer for a long time and I stopped dancing. And yeah, so you're kind of like, hello, dance again.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad because it was a big aha moment for me. And then there's another thing. I think I feel like hydration's a really big thing now. Hydration and communication are like the things that I'm really working on at like right now that are at the forefront of my mind. And with hydration, I was reading this book that a client gave me called Quench, and it was talking about how, have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's talking about how we're just like all dehydrated. So, and then there's these, really depressing statistics about water in there. But
as I take my sip of water, thanks for reminding me.
Yes, but the book suggests that there's a fourth type of water besides liquid and steam and ice, but it's gel, and if you have a lot of well-hydrated plants, they have that gel water that's already rich with minerals and has like good qi. And then there's also, you can add things like seeds or chia seeds to your water and have having, what was she saying? She was saying like, if you have 1 bottle of water and an apple, that's more hydrating than 2 bottles of water because of the fiber and the gel that the apple can hold the hydration in your body more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've heard there's this tribe in Mexico, I forgot their name, but they're renowned for running, like they're runners, long distance, and they carry chia seeds with them.
Oh yeah, she talks about them in the book. So one of the authors did these studies with people tribes that are desert tribes and how they stay hydrated.
It's incredible. I love that. Yeah, I love that you're bringing it back to the body too, and just health practices.
But I can give you a home thing too. So even actually having living plants in your home brings in a lot of moisture. So on a practical level, that brings in more hydration. But then you're talking about really connecting to water. Like I agree with you. Like I love water. I literally live on the East River, and I love being near water, and I've always lived near water. And that's really nourishing for me to be near a beach. Like I wouldn't really want to be in the woods unless I was near a lake. Mm-hmm. So a way that you can bring that water energy is through Feng Shui is water is related to the color black, actually. So you can bring in black, and also similar to the dance, right? You can bring in wavy patterns, and that's very watery and flowy. And I think there's a lot of fabrics that have that wavy. If you have like light fabrics, like maybe even in your drapes, you can bring in these kind of light, wispy, wavy patterns. But and you can also draw wavy patterns.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, like creating your own art even.
Yeah, you can do like one big wave, and then that wave informs the next wave and informs the next wave. Oh, that sounds fun.
I love this. And I love the idea that it's almost like we become part of the space, because I feel like we are, but we disassociate ourselves. Like we create this sense of separation from our environment so often. And I feel like these practices kind of bring us back into and a part of our environment and having relationship with it, which is something I love.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Well, I remember being really young, not young, like a teenager. That's young. And I would always rearrange my room. And someone told me, rearrange your room, rearrange your life. But that's kind of like, I think we knew it as children. Like you would move things around, you would play with things, see how it feels. And now that we're serious adults, it's harder, but also it's not totally our fault. Because I think that there's also in our food, and just like how our food is contaminated, so are all the things that we bring into our home. For instance, like air conditioning is very dehydrating, and heating is very dehydrating. And then there's all the chemicals that off gas from all the furniture and the upholstery that we have, and all of it, one leads to dehydration, but also it just disconnects us with feelings and feeling how to be in a space.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about that and sort of blocks, I'm curious, in your experience working with people, like what are some of the most common blocks or deficiencies, I guess you could call it, that you see your clients facing when you do like an initial consultation, or common patterns that you've identified, if any?
Well, I don't know if there's common patterns, but one thing that actually came up a couple times just in the past week, or a handful of times in the past week, was I think women tend to overextend themselves. So even with their partners, the way that they arrange the bedroom, it reflects that. So for instance, one of my students was, as a stay-at-home mom, and I think that she homeschools and she takes care of a lot of things. And she takes care of like everything in regards to the home. And she sleeps closest to the door. So what that means Feng Shui wise is that she's actually even when she's sleeping, she's in a place where she can't relax and she needs to be on guard.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make sense. And I know maybe this seems a little sexist, but I don't think so. To embody more the feminine, to be more accepting and to not be as active, but try to be more receptive. You can try to sometimes, I suggested that she sleep on the inside away from the door and let her husband sleep on the outside. So she, at least while they're sleeping, he could be the protector in the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I saw my yoga teacher this morning, and she was like, I was reading the book. And she's like, I read the part about the bed, and I told my boyfriend, okay, we gotta talk. And she's like, our bed was up against the wall, and she was sleeping on the inside. And she said, we got to move the bed so I can have a little bit of space, because we need a balanced relationship. And we're going to get 2 little nightstands so I can have a place to put my cup too. And she said it's been feeling really good. And she's a Kundalini yoga teacher. So I was like, it also by sleeping up against the wall, your aura can't expand, or your aura is expanding like lopsided, and you're constricted and you're not able to really expand within your relationship. And she's like, whoa, yeah, totally. Because it's interesting that there's a lot of ways that we exacerbate our own issues through our Feng Shui, which this is also a thing that people don't know, is sometimes, there's never a good Feng Shui, there's never a perfect Feng Shui, right?
Yeah.
In a home. And sometimes we're attracted to spaces that may have some kind of negative Feng Shui effect, but that's because our subconscious knows that it's time to address it, and it's going to exacerbate the problem. So we address it, which I'm sure happens with your body too, with nutrition and health and our allergies and things like that. So it's kind of bringing what needs to happen to the forefront. So we might be attracted to places with Feng Shui that have problems because we need to deal with those problems.
Totally. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so many ahas right now. And I won't get too personal, but related to health-wise, there are so many parallels. One of them is very often I see my clients, they're addicted to things that they're sensitive to. So if they have a food sensitivity, they're going to be sort of addicted to it or go to it. And it's this interesting process of, it amplifies the inflammation that happens, which, yes, kind of gives you that boost of adrenaline, which can be addictive. But I think what you're speaking to is going even deeper. It's like your body being like, okay, we need to bring this up to your face so you can see it and you can't ignore it anymore. And it's talking to you. I love that.
Yeah, just like also with our psychics too, right? People start to remember traumatic events when their psyche has the ability to work with that. It means that you're strong enough. It means that you have the ability to work on this, and that's why it's coming to the forefront.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much more here. Like even with the bedroom and the bed and I could go on and on. But I want to, because we're already getting close to the hour. I can't believe it. I think I could spend like 2 hours talking about this. But I want people to obviously check out your book because I think you give so many wonderful practical tips. But for people who are listening who don't have the book yet, what is one thing that would give them sort of like the most mileage and start wherever they are, if you could choose one thing?
I think the main thing would be here's a good one, especially for your listeners, to take a good look at your pantry and your refrigerator, which represents how you nourish yourself, right, and your health, and to discard anything that one is expired, two is like that you don't want and that you don't love and you'll never eat. And to actually do a little clearing of all these things, because if you have expired food or things in the back of your refrigerator that you haven't looked at in like a year or two, it's time to let go. And it can symbolize the same kind of thing happening inside your body, like having this extra, whether it means extra weight or extra toxins in your body that you need to let go of. So I think that's a great place to start.
I love that as an action item. I'm going to do that. I've actually been looking at my cabinet. Our fridge is pretty good, but my cabinet is so I have it to do tomorrow morning. Well, I ask everybody who comes on, what is feeding their wild? So I would love to hear from you, Anjie. And this could be, body, mind, soul. What is feeding your wild right now?
So I think I touched on it earlier, but I'm really into my Kundalini yoga studio. So I really, really just love Kundalini yoga. It's like my favorite right now.
I feel like Kundalini is next level too. It takes you to the next level for sure.
Yes. And then I have actually a follow-up too. And I also started journaling recently. My friend Katie Dalbout invited me to her class, and I know she talks about journaling all of the time, and I'm in her book, but I actually had not started journaling. And so I went to this workshop she did, and I just love it. And I'm doing the artist way, which I totally recommend if you haven't done that. So that's really feeding me.
Beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Anjie. There's so much here. I think that everybody can go check out your website too, Holistic Spaces. And where is the best place for people to find you and find out more information about Feng Shui?
They can go to holisticspaces.com, which is HOLISTIC spaces.com, or AnjieCho.com, ANJIECHO.com.
Awesome. And I am really excited about this. You are so generous to provide us with a giveaway gift for some listeners. So would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm giving away a copy of my book. And I think we'll have on your website maybe the link to the opt-in form, right?
Yep.
And you can just sign in with your email address. And then when did we decide we were going to?
Like 2 weeks. So from the date of this publication, you guys have 2 weeks to go over to the website. I'll have everything linked up in the show notes. But just for listeners who aren't at a computer, it's holisticspaces.com/2018 FYW for Feed Your Wild. Yeah, go get it.
And it's a copy of Holistic Spaces, 108 Ways to Create a Mindful and Peaceful Home. And it has 108 simple, practical tips to invite Feng Shui into your home. And I think I guess it's an easy read. It took me a long time to write, but then people are like, oh, I think I read it in one night. So I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, that was me. But I think that is the genius behind these types of books and works, is like being able to distill something that is so ancient and can get complicated, and distill it and synthesize it into something that is so practical and simple and approachable. So thank you for doing that for all of us.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Thanks, Angie. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episodes, please share with a friend and leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us. I want to hear how you are feeding your wild. Give us a shout out on iTunes or reach me on Instagram at wildlyrooted. See you next time.